folks, Headley Whitappear, Managing Director of Lion Selection Group in Melbourne, with Alex Rivera from Brightstar Resources, which is our second largest investment currently. When we roll Alto into Brightstar in a week or so, that will make it our largest investment. So, talking to Alex, who's our largest investment.
Excellent.
Alex, you will be sitting on about a 3 million ounce resource in the heart of the Western Australian goldfields. Most people who have a resource position that large are wandering towards a study, a large equity raising and debt financing, and then a big build to go to full-scale production. I don't think you are. Tell me what you're going to do and why you're not going to go down the build it all at once path.
Excellent. Okay, thanks Headley, and thank you for having me. I suppose the answer to that question is really based in our portfolio and how we came to be, and really what Brightstar has been about in the last 24 months or so has been about consolidating near-term development opportunities in the eastern goldfields of Western Australia. So we've done a number of M&A transactions that's really got us to the position of having 3 million ounces. Really, all of those were predicated on the base that we were wanting to get ounces and assets that had near-term production, were through or advanced through the permitting process, all on granted mining leases, flora, fauna, heritage, those sorts of things, and really positioned us as near-term developers versus an explorer. Where we see our asset base is really across three distinct hubs, being the Menzies hub, the Laverton hub, and now the Sandstone hub. Across those three areas, there are 3 million ounces of endowment. On the organic exploration upside, which really gets me excited, is really understanding the corporate history of those opportunities. And I suppose that is where we see genuine upside to growing. And we think we can grow those resources quite significantly through concerted exploration efforts. From a development perspective, we see a really strong synergy with our portfolio in the sense that we can develop certain assets sequentially to then fund the next one and fund bigger aspirations. So specifically with that, I mean looking to develop an additional 2 or 3 mines in the Laverton area and down at Menzies as well. So over the next 12 to 24 months, Brightstar would like to be in a position to be either looking at toll milling solutions for certain mine areas, or the refurbishment of our own infrastructure. So as an explorer come developer, we're not kind of down that traditional pathway of here's a resource area, we're going through a DFS, we want to build something, we are come a $200 million build. What we are is that we could develop certain assets sequentially that delivers us cash flow that we can then fund other areas of our business. We see the true NAV, or the net asset value for our business, being probably centered around the Sandstone area, if I'm honest, with respect to the scale of the opportunity. We see a real opportunity to use Menzies and to use Laverton as a way of monetizing and commercializing that to produce the cash flow to really unlock that value. So I suppose in the context of a traditional explorer and developer, it is somewhat different. It's really almost like a private equity approach to trying to build a company. And we have a number of mines that should be able to do 20 to 30 to 40,000 ounces per annum in and of themselves. So in isolation, they're interesting, they're exciting, but they're not that material, they're not that relevant. If we can build 3 or 4 of them contemporaneously or sequentially, then it really scaffolds up that production profile to something akin to a developer. So we really see an opportunity to get towards that 80 to 100,000 ounces per annum through the development of our existing assets before we even get to Sandstone. So that's what gets us excited.
Look, it's music to my ears, because it sounds like get to cash flow, which can be reinvested in the rest of the business for a very small capital ticket. And that's where dilution comes from, is capital. So if that's a low dilution exercise, I suspect that's probably what you're getting rewarded for in the market at the moment. Can we talk about growth a bit longer term? Because all of that getting into production is short term. You may have alluded to it a moment ago, but look across your portfolio, where do you see the biggest limbs to growth here? And if you look 5 years into the future, what do you think that could produce?
Yeah. So I suppose an overarching comment to address that question is I look at the corporate history of all the companies and assets that we have in our portfolio, and really that's the most important thing. When I look at what was existing within the Brightstar portfolio, if the last 10 years before 2020, there wasn't a drill hole drilled. It was a company that was more or less stranded, didn't really have access to capital, didn't really have a pathway forward, it struggled. A few of the acquisitions we've done subsequent to that were not too dissimilar. King West was operating and looking at the Goongarrie project, for example, not the actual Menzies project. Linden Gold, specifically, 100% of its focus was in the Second Fortune mining operation. There was very limited exploration regionally and on some of the other areas. Sandstone is not too dissimilar between the Alto and the Gateway ground. Systematic, genuine exploration over the last 5 to 10 years has been sporadic at best. Access to capital has been hard.
Yep.
Alto's had an interesting corporate history with a number of takeover offers and has really struggled to really deploy that capital. So, any exploration company is underexplored, right? Like I think it's a CEO or MD's job to explain that. But genuinely, we look at our project areas and there's significant gaps in how they were explored for and how much money was spent on these projects, such that they didn't really have an exploration history of the last 10 or 20 years. So we've got a really great place to start from. So that's where we see, I suppose, the opening gambit is, okay, we've got all this upside, what do we do with it? It really comes down to how do we deploy that capital? How do we allocate capital in our business? Like, we've got no shortage of targets, no shortage of areas to grow resources or to find new discoveries. We would have 1,200 square kilometres in Sandstone, 100 square kilometres in Menzies, 600 square kilometres in the Laverton district. So a huge land package, significantly underexplored. So where do we deploy capital? Really, for me, it's about taking the helicopter up and seeing what drives the needle for investment. Well, what's going to get institutional investors excited? What's going to get the market cap, growing? And potentially would also excite mid-tiers as to create Brightstar as M&A target. Like, if we're looking for targets that don't move the needle for the mid-tiers, then we're not really doing our job. So distilling all that down, where I see the true growth for us is primarily in the Sandstone district, so in and around Alto's ground and the ground we picked up from Gateway, the Montague East project, and also in Laverton. And I think those two areas have different, I suppose, pathways to monetisation. Sandstone will always be let's create scale, let's build a project that's got size and substance that we can build our own infrastructure. It can support its own mill. It can be a central processing facility for that whole district. Sandstone's a really interesting greenstone belt. In the entire eastern goldfields of WA, I can't think of another area that's got 7+ million ounces of endowment that's currently owned by ASX juniors within 100 square kilometres of sandstone that doesn't have a single mid-tier or major operating. There is not one operating mine in that area, and there's a significant endowment. It would have had at least 4 or 5 million ounces mined. So we're talking about 10 million ounces within a 1 hour drive of sandstone that doesn't have an operating mine or a mid-tier or a major anywhere near it. And you obviously got off to the west, you've got the Murchison, so Ramelius and Westgold. To the east and north, you've got Agnew and Bellevue. But with respect to Sandstone, that's the opportunity, is to organically grow our project, look at inorganic opportunities and build something of scale that supports that infrastructure. Laverton, for us, is a little bit different. What we're looking at is how do we actually monetize what's there? So we're not necessarily looking for scale and things that move the needle. We're looking at things that we can dig up out of the ground tomorrow. So we're looking at things that are located on our granted mining leases, proximal to our infrastructure, near our existing operations. Can we find things that might only be 50 or 100 or 200,000 ounces, but that we can actually dig out of the ground in the next 2 years? Mm-hmm. So it's really a bifurcated exploration approach, I suppose. It's near-term monetisation. Let's find things that we can dig out of the ground and let's build something of scale over at Sandstone. And there is no reason why we can't do them contemporaneously. Like, we feel that we can be operating mines, exploring effectively near mines, but also growing a greenfields business that is attractive to the institutional market, but also attractive to potential mid-tiers.
And I would put it to you, the best way to fund growth is through a form of cash flow rather than issuing shares, which is what you plan to do. So,
exactly right.
Well, look, Alex, we're really excited as Lion to be sitting alongside you there, or you're in the driving seat. We're watching, in all honesty.
You're in the back seat.
Yeah, we're in the back seat. We think terrific job you're doing. Love the strategy that you've taken there, and I think other people are going to copy it. For now, it's you leading the way, and it looks like you're off to a great start. The reward, hopefully, in the market has only just begun. So thanks for coming to Melbourne. Thanks for being part of our AGM today. And it's really great to be on the register of Brightstar.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Headley.
Good on you.
Cheers.